How you doing, everybody? Chad Thibodeau. Welcome to another Monday Morning Mentor. So glad to have you guys here. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about how to secure high-paid speaking gigs. Before we get started this morning, I want to welcome everybody who's watching us, whether you're in our night school program, our launch school program, whether you're part of our Speakpreneur program, maybe you're watching us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching, welcome. We do this every single Monday at noon Eastern. I probably should do it at 11:59 Eastern so we can keep that Monday morning mentor thing going, but we do that. And so if you are new with us, we try to give you some pretty high-level teaching and training as we go. We do have a workbook for this. If you're inside the night school program, you've already got a link for it. If you are watching this live, just simply put the word notes inside of the chat room. And as soon as our program is done today, I'll have my assistant reach out to you and shoot that over to you. So as you watch the replay for it, you've got a step-by-step guide to be able to get through that. So as always, I'm going to pause 5 seconds so my editor knows where to stop and start the recording. And you guys grab your pencil and paper and let's get going. 5 seconds. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to How to Get High-Paid Speaking Gigs. I want to go ahead and share my screen with you. What we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about the 9 shifts that separate $500 gigs from $10,000 keynotes. Now, the reason why I want to put that separation there is it's not difficult to get paid to speak. In fact, a lot of people just simply by taking a little action can get paid to speak, but there's a difference between getting paid and getting highly paid. So as I travel the country helping people learn how to become highly paid speakers, we run into a different type of speaker, and I'm wondering who you are. So let me know inside the chat room. So some people we have is like, okay, one level is, Chad, I really want to speak. I've never spoken on stage, but I really want to speak. I'd like to learn that. That's our novices. Okay, who's our novices? Then we have our amateurs. Our amateurs are people who you wanted to speak, you maybe taken a couple stages, you may even have been paid a little bit of money, maybe you've had your travel expenses paid. You know, that's our amateur. How many amateurs do we have? Then we have like the experts. Like these are the people who speak 10, 12 times per year on a pretty decent stage. They're getting invited. They've got some assets when it comes time for speaking. They may have like, a sizzle reel or, they may have some YouTube proof that they're speaking. But, they're not making a full-time living, but it's a pretty decent side hustle. Who are our experts? Then we have our authorities. Our authorities are people who speak on a stage, they have a book, they're sort of in demand. It may not be what they do for a living, but it is a really good complement to what they do for a living, and those are our authorities. Okay, those are the people who are speaking 20, 25 times per year on a stage, a couple times a month. They're getting invited. They're very well known for being a speaker. So an expert is someone who knows something. An authority is someone who's known for knowing something. Who are our authorities? And then there are the influencers. These are the people who make a full-time living from the stage. These are the people who try to at least once or twice or maybe even 3 times a month get up on a stage. They're highly paid for their speaking gig, and they probably have something to sell on the back end, and so they're making a relatively decent living. And so that's what I do. I travel. I'm on a stage 4 to 8 times every single month, literally all around the country, and I get paid well to speak on that particular stage, and then we sell a pretty high-end product, and I get paid some commission on the back end for that as well. And so that's where I'm at. I'm just now at that phase, and I've been doing this, for a long time. I used to be a pastor for many years, and so I would speak on stages in front of hundreds and thousands of people throughout my pastoral career. So owning the stage, speaking on a stage is nothing new. And what I've learned is there is a massive difference between someone who's just teetering at the stage and someone who makes a lot of money. So when I first got into coaching, I was trying to get my product up and running. And I got invited to do a breakout session at a very large marketing conference in San Diego. In fact, if I was to tell you the name of this marketing conference, many of you guys would remember what it was in its heyday. And I was just going to do a breakout session. So the event coordinator invited me to do a breakout session. I was doing a talk called The Give Method, how to give all your stuff away and get paid handsomely for it. And so I worked on it. It was a free gig. I wasn't getting paid to do it, but I was like, okay, at least I'll get some exposure. And they allowed me to do a pitch. And so I was going to pitch my $3,000 Launch 90X coaching program on the back end of it. I'm like, there may be 150, 200 people in the room. hey, that's pretty good. That's a really good size stage. I'm going to crush it. So I worked incredibly hard. I got to San Diego. And when I got to the venue the night before the session, the event coordinator met me and said, "Hey, I've got some really good news for you." She says, "Well, over 600 people have signed up for your particular breakout. So instead of putting you in the breakout room, we're actually going to put you in the main room." So I remember walking around the corner into the main room, and they had this huge 40 or 50 foot LED wall, 15 feet tall. It was gorgeous, a huge stage, all the lights, the fog, the smoke. They had the huge screens. I mean, anything that you wanted, they had. So much so that we had to have a full rehearsal so we knew how all the tech worked. I knew how the clicker worked. I knew where the confidence monitor was. I was geeked out. That next morning, she told me, she goes, "Oh, by the way," she goes, "we can't have you on the main stage unless we have a sizzle reel. So I hope you don't mind, but I went ahead and created an introductory sizzle reel on your behalf." And they played that thing, and it was, I still have it today. It's awesome. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I went out there on stage and I began speaking, and holy smokes, I crushed it. I'm not trying to brag, but I crushed it. Every story landed. There were people laughing. There were people crying. There was this one moment when I told this particular story, and I looked out, and everybody was just in tears. Nobody was on their phone unless they were trying to take a picture of my slides. Everything was working. And when I finished that keynote, I pitched my $3,000 product. I got off the stage. The event manager, the gal who invited me, was there with big tears in her eyes. She goes, "This is exactly what we needed." Gave me a huge hug. I high-fived everybody in the back. I went out to the lobby where all these people were after the breakout, and everybody wanted to take selfies with me. They even had my hand out, and they wanted me to autograph it. I was like, dude, this is crazy. Oh, by the way, at the end of my talk, they gave me a standing ovation. I had never had a standing ovation before, except for when I was leaving someplace. They'd give me one, but I had never had a standing ovation before. It was amazing, like just an incredible day. That night, I remember getting into the Uber on my way back to the airport, and I opened up my laptop, and I just wanted to see how much money I had made, because I'm like, okay, there were 600 people in the room. If I only close 10%, that's 60. That's $180,000 day. I'm like, how amazing. That's life-changing if I can make $180,000 in a day. I was like, well, with a standing ovation, everybody crying, man, it could be 20%. So I open up my laptop and I log into my bank and I look, and not one sale. Not one. Not one person bought my product. I went on to the landing page, and 600 people there, only 11 people had even gone to the landing page to look at it, more or less buy it. And I remember, like, holy smokes, that hurts. But that was an incredible lesson for me, because I learned that there's a difference between being a speaker and being a speaker who gets paid a lot of money. And you have to learn to be a speaker that elicits a response. And so from that, I started making massive changes and shifts inside of my own speaking ability, and things began changing. And then I started getting paid a lot of money, and my offers started landing. And so I want to share with you what those shifts are. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you here, and let's just jump into that. If you're following along in your workbook, it should follow along directly. But here are the 9 shifts that separate $500 gigs from $10,000 gigs, okay? If I can get this to work. Well, she's not wanting to. Oh, there we go. Okay. The first one is you have to stop calling yourself a speaker. Okay. You have to stop calling yourself a speaker, because if you're going to get paid to speak on a stage, event organizers, they're not buying a talk, because no offense, you may be an incredible public speaker. There are people better than you. Okay. You may have a really cool story, but there are people with cooler stories than you. And so you have to remember that as an organizer is planning their event, they're not trying to buy a talk. Those are a dime a dozen. Okay, what they're trying to do is they're trying to buy an outcome. And the more specific your outcome, the better it's going to be. And so, for instance, if you say, okay, I'm a speaker, and I speak on leadership, that's incredibly weak, because leadership is a gigantic envelope. And this is the way I explain it. So if this is an envelope, okay, the envelope is leadership. Well, there are so many components inside leadership that you could talk about. And what you want is you want to be able to reach inside that envelope and pull something very specific out that will move the needle for the audience. So, for instance, I help sales teams, and increase close rates by 20 to 30% in 90 days by fixing their messages and follow-up systems. Okay, that's very specific. So one is generic, one is a big envelope, and one is very specific. When you can get specific like that, then good things can happen. So I don't want you to call yourself a speaker anymore. I'm not a speaker. What I am, I'm someone who resolves a problem and gets results for my audience. So when the event organizer can look at you as someone who can get an outcome for their audience, they're a lot more apt to buy you. So the question you have to answer is this: what problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? And what measurable shift happens after you solve that? And it cannot be, listen to me, it cannot be depends. Okay, it cannot be depends. If the answer to those questions are depends, then what that does is that tells your event organizer, it tells your audience, it tells your prospects, and honestly, it tells you that you haven't put the work in to be able to get a measurable outcome. And so because of that, you're probably not going to get hired, or if you get hired, you're only going to get paid a little bit of money because they're not 100% sure that people are going to come to their event because you're speaking, okay? And that's a huge deal. The next thing is you have, the second shift is you have to build one signature talk that sells transformation. So when somebody asks you, what do you speak on? Okay, you can't give them 12 answers. You can't give, well, I'm pretty good at this, and 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 I'm pretty good at this. Okay, that's an incredibly fast way to stay broke, okay? The more specific you can become, the more money you're going to get paid. So you have to create a signature talk, one signature talk that sells transformation. Now, I've been around the block a long time, okay? If you think about like everything that I've done, okay? So I have started and sold 4 companies in my life. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I was a sports talk radio show. I played college basketball. I was a pastor for many years. I used to travel the world with a company called ClickFunnels, as an international speaker. I built marketing systems for some of the big names in the history of the world. I've been a business coach, launch strategist for 13 years. I have over 10 million words recorded that I've been training an AI bot on, okay? I have a lot to say. But if I overwhelm the event organizer or your potential audience with what you can do, then they're going to skip right by you. Because when you can do a lot of things, you become a general practitioner. When you can do one thing and you can do that incredibly well, now you become a specialist. And event organizers are looking for specialists to put on their stage. This is why you need to narrow your focus to one signature talk. Now, let me just show you how you need to put this talk together. I have an entire training just on this, but here's what it is. So let's start with the problem, okay? You need to define the core pain that your audience feels, okay? I'm not going to get into the different types of problems. That's a whole nother training for another day. But at the end of the day, your audience feels a particular pain. You need to then show them the consequences of staying the same. Like, what is the cost if they don't move? A lot of people ask me, hey, Chad, I don't really have a financial measurable result in what I do. This is the measurable result right here. You need to show your audience, ultimately, what are the consequences if they don't do something and if they don't work with you. So you have to dial in your problem, you have to dial in the cost, and you have to dial in your framework. Your framework is the repeatable system that you're going to teach that you sort of become known for. It's the body, the meat, the heart of your talk. And then you're going to want to share results. Here's some case studies. And then you're going to want to dial in their next steps. What is the next step? So what I had was in that talk that I gave you down, that I was telling you about in San Diego, the reason why I bombed was I had my framework down. Okay? My framework was solid. I had it down. But I didn't do a very good job with the problem. I did a terrible job talking about the consequences of saying the same, but I could teach my stuff as good as anybody. Okay, my proof sucked, and my pitch wasn't aligned with what I was talking about. So because my pitch wasn't aligned with what I was talking about, what happened was it seemed like I was giving 2 distinct keynotes on the same stage, and they weren't connected. And because of that, people were really bought into my story and they were really bought into my framework, but they weren't bought into my pitch because it wasn't a logical next step for them. So as you're building your signature talk, what I want you to do is I really want you to focus on the two ends there. Start with their next step. Start with the path forward and work your way backwards. And then the problem and the path forward have got to be married. Okay, so in mine, when that offer that I was telling you that I made in front of 600 people, $3,000 offer that I thought I was going to crush it on, make $180,000 in a day, that I ended up making nothing. Okay, what was the biggest issue was the problem and the path forward weren't the same. So you got to work on those two things. So as you're putting your signature talk together, you have to build one signature talk that sells the transformation. Step 3, the third shift. You need to create a core. Well, actually, this is sort of part of that one. This is still part of 2. Here's the core 4 framework. Okay. So what I like to do is I like to start with my core competency. Okay. Why you? Why are you the right person to speak? Like, what is your intellectual property? Okay. What is that? So this is the core competency. Okay. We'll get to the IP in a minute. The core competency is really, why are you the right person? The second one is the core outcome. Why, if they listen to you and apply, what happens to them if they listen to you and apply what you said? Like, what they get, what are the specific measurable outcomes? Now, I'm not talking about process. I'm not talking about like, you get this many calls and you get this many this. No. I'm talking about like literally what happens to them. Because a lot of times in our keynotes as we're speaking, okay, we're really good with our story. We're really good with our framework, but we're not all that great at telling them that if you do this framework, here's what will happen to you, okay? So let me see if I can break this down giving you this story. How many of you guys have ever heard of a guy by the name of Tony Horton, okay? Tony Horton created a product called P90X, okay? Now, what was interesting was Tony Horton, he went to an industry, and the industry was the weight loss bodybuilding industry. And he said, okay, that's my audience. Now, what are they trying to do? They're trying to get ripped and they're trying to get shredded, okay? And then he looked and said, okay, well, why isn't that working? Because they're trying all these things and it's not working. And he noticed that there was something happening that was causing it not to work. So he said, instead, what you need to do is this. And if you did that, here's the unfair advantage. So what he did was he found an audience. Okay, so let's start with that. Okay, so you have to have an audience. Okay, that audience is trying to do something. They're trying to get a result. Most of you have an audience and you know what result they're trying to get. But you have to look and see what else are they doing? What are the alternative vehicles that they're doing? And why isn't it working? You have to know why what they're currently doing isn't working. Then you have to know what they need to do instead. So Tony Horton said, the reason why you're not getting ripped is because your body is growing accustomed to the workouts. So that's why when you work out the first time or second time or third time, you get really good results. Then your body begins to plateau because it's coming accustomed to the workout. So what you need to do instead is a unique mechanism called muscle confusion. And if you do muscle confusion, every workout will be like it's the first workout, and you will get shredded and get the results every single time. In order to get muscle confusion, you need to do XYZ. And the best place to buy that is P90X. So he had this little formula that he used inside of his process that says, who's my audience? What are they trying to do? Okay, what are they trying to do to get that result? Why does it not work? What should they do instead? What's the unique and unfair advantage they will get if they do that? And does my product sell that? And if so, where can they buy it? He put this formula, this process, this linear process together, and that is ultimately the linear process for your keynote. Okay, and it comes back to the core outcome. If you can get that good at your core outcome, where you can say, okay, here's my audience, here's what they're trying to do, here's what they're doing and try to accomplish it, here's why that's not working, here's what they should do instead, and if they did that, here's the unfair advantage they would get, and here's the product that sells it. Now you've created an outcome, a core outcome, and it's believable. So it starts with your core competency. Why are you the right person to do it? And to be brutally honest with you, if you only got good at number 2, number 1 will take care of itself. Because Tony Horton didn't have to talk about all of his credentials. what he had to do was he had to talk about the problem. He said, you're trying to get shredded. You're doing 2-3 workouts and you're getting pretty good results. Your body's becoming accustomed to it. You're not getting the results that you want anymore. The reason why you're not getting those results is because your body's become plateaued. What you need to do instead is muscle confusion. Here's how you do that. Here's the product. See, that is the credentials that he needs, is simply by telling them the problem that they have and the outcomes that they can get. If you can master that formula and you can speak that on stage, everybody's going to want that. The third thing is core curriculum. Take what you just said and put it into a core curriculum. Now let's talk about what that means, okay? Tony Horton, when he went back to his audience, people trying to get shredded, and said, this is what you're trying to do. This is why it's not working. You need to do muscle confusion instead. He built a curriculum around muscle confusion. I think there were 7 components that if you did these 7 things, your muscles would always be confused, right? And so that's what he taught. So the core outcome was related to the pre-story, and the core curriculum was what he taught. Now, what's interesting is if you go back and watch his infomercials, he sold billions of dollars of product. He spends very little time on his core curriculum. He spends a lot of time on core outcome, and he spends very little time on core curriculum. The reason is because he had to spend the majority of his time convincing his audience that they had a problem and that he was an authority on how to solve that problem, and then he gave them an aha saying what you have to do is muscle memory, or excuse me, what you have to do is muscle confusion. And so once he put that in there, how many of you guys want to know about muscle confusion? Now he had his entire audience on the hook. They all wanted to learn that. And he could jump in, he could teach them how to do that. And they're going to take notes like crazy. That's core curriculum. The fourth one is core product. And this is just what's next step. So because he did a good job on the outcome, like you need muscle confusion, and taught him the 7 tenets of muscle confusion, now buy P90X was just a logical next step. So he didn't have to pitch it that hard. He didn't have to put all this really weird stuff in the offer to make it work, because the outcome and the curriculum did the job for him. So if you're going to get on stage and you're going to get paid a lot of money, you have to do that. But you have to be seen. So the third shift is you have to create speaker assets that signal value. So once you have determined that you're not a speaker, you're a transformer, and you've put together a keynote that builds transformation in the keynote, now you have something that event organizers want. They just don't know that you're the person to deliver it. So what you have to do is you have to create some speaker assets that signal value. So for instance, like a speaker reel, okay? This is 2 to 5 minutes, tight and powerful. This is of you speaking on a stage, okay? You speaking on a stage. Then you have to put that then in a speaker page, like a website that people can find that. And the speaker page is only about you speaking, okay? And with your speaker reel on it, they have to be able to find that. Then you need your talk titles and testimonials. So 3 to 5 titles that really solve the same problem. So for instance, one of the things, I just got invited on Thursday. I'm going to be speaking, the LA Times has got this brand new series coming out, and they're taking the top 100 influencers around the world, putting them on this stage, on this virtual stage, and they're expecting about 500,000 people to attend, and it's going to be 100 speakers, and I was invited to be one of their 100. What I was really thrilled with was 75 of them have to pay to be on stage, and I'm getting paid to be on stage, which is so unbelievable. And what they're asking me to come and speak on their particular stage is something that I've been doing for a long time, and that is how to get paid to launch a product. Okay, because I've sort of become known for that. So my speaker reel is about my business strategy, and my talk and titles are all about launching products. Okay, start, sell, and scale. So my talk titles, I've got several of them, but they're all about the same thing: getting paid to launch a product, right? I'm adding another one in mine as soon as I get my book published here in a couple months. I'm going to I'm going to shift that now, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of this, helping people get paid to speak on stages, okay? And so you'll see my speaker page shift a lot and change a lot to different talk titles. From the talk titles, you need multiple testimonials. Testimonials from event organizers saying this person is awesome. Now, you say, Chad, you know what? I'm way down at the beginning. I've only spoken on a stage or two. Maybe you haven't even spoken on a stage. How do I get that? The way you get that is you find events, okay? You find events. So like, for instance, if you're in our Speakpreneur community, okay, you know that there's about 1,000 other entrepreneurs inside of that community. What I like to do, what I tell people to do, is find out the ones that are hosting events and invite them to speak at your upcoming event in exchange for you speaking on their upcoming event. So you can do a swap. You're going to give them a testimonial. They're going to give you a testimonial. Bam, you got that. Do that 3, 4, 5 times. Now you look like a pro. You've got the speaker assets from 3, 4, 5 stages. Have you been paid? No. Okay. And you have testimonials from 3, 4, 5 different people. You only have to put one event on and invite 5 people to speak on your stage. Okay. Okay, so you're not going to, they're all getting assets from you, you're getting assets from them, and you have all your testimonials from them as well. And so that's a really good way to work on your talk titles and get your testimonials. You need an after speaking pathway, okay? What's your offer? What's your program? Or what's consulting next step? So what you need to do when you come, and we'll talk about pricing in a minute, when you're working with an event organizer, you would rather take less money to speak on their stage in exchange for you being able to do an offer. We're going to talk about offer in a minute, okay? But if you have no assets, like if you don't have a book or you don't have a coaching program or you don't have a podcast or whatever, you sort of look like a risk to the event organizer. But if you have assets, you look like a premium investment. That's why inside of our Speakpreneur program, the first thing we do in the first 90 days is we write a book for you because we know how powerful that book is when it comes time for getting booked on stages. If you have a solid book that aligns with what you're teaching on stage, you look like premium, they pay you premium, and the people who get paid and people who get invited to speak on stage goes up, okay? The next thing, start where you can get proof. Start where you can get proof. You don't just jump onto $10,000 stages. You have to build leverage first. You have to collect assets, not just applause. So at my event in San Diego that I spoke at, that I was telling you about, where I got a standing ovation, but I made no money, I got applause. But at the end of the day, applause does not put food on the table. It doesn't, okay? So you have to go get proof. Now, here's what I did get from that. I got a solid video. I look like $1 million on that stage. Second, I got so many people who sent me a text message or a DM or an email saying, oh my gosh, I want you to speak on my stage, right? So I had proof. So I began collecting assets. So did I make any money from my offer? Absolutely not. But I get invited to at least another dozen stages from that one particular talk. So that's part of building leverage. I was just hoping to get paid a ton of money, but what I didn't realize was I was still at the beginning stage in my business and I was literally just building leverage. So here's where to start. Local events and industry meetings, okay? So every city and town has a chamber of commerce. And almost every chamber of commerce does a thing called lunch and learn, probably one a week. And the thing that they struggle with the most at those lunch and learns is getting speakers. And I have learned, in fact, I don't know if I've ever been turned down. I have learned that I can reach out to them. I can send them my speaker page with my talks, okay? And almost always I get booked to come do a lunch and learn. And I take my little camera with me and I record that bad boy. So now I have myself speaking. I can use little video clips out of that for reels. Plus, I've met 15, 20 other people that could be potential clients for me or could have potential stages for me. So I like to start with local events and industry meetings. Okay, you can go to co-working spaces and find out, hey, you know, I'll give you an example. So I was talking with the manager of Dillard's at the local mall here. And I was buying a jacket for an upcoming thing, and we hit it off. And she and I were talking, and I was like, yeah, I just work in that little office building right there. She goes, yeah, what is that? And I was like, there's about 900 business owners who need your clothing inside that office. I said, why don't you go to the manager and say, I want to do a workshop on how to dress as an entrepreneur, comfortable, casual, yet still feel premium. So she did this little workshop. They were hoping for like 15 people to show up to this. They ended up having so many people, they had to open up the back doors and people were just walking in, and they had to watch it on the little TV there. And the lady ended up making so much money that now when I go in there, I always get the employee discount on my clothing because I helped her make so much money, because she went into a co-working space where there were 900 business owners in there, offered massive value, helped them out tremendously, and now she gets all of this business because of it. It's a great place to start. Podcasts, these are incredibly underrated. Okay, I tell people that if you're not making $250,000 a year or more inside of your business, you need to be on 3 to 5 podcasts every single week. And I'm going to show you how to turn these podcasts into money. Okay, so if you guys are in night school or in our Launch Fuel program or our Speakpreneur link that I gave you, you know that you have a link to a worksheet that I put together for this particular talk. One of the best ways to do podcast is you get talking and you just tell them, hey, I'm going to speak on XY topic today. Now, just so you know, I have 15 pages of notes. I'm only going to get to the first 2. But if you want my other notes, all you have to do is just, they can either click a link or scan a podcast or send you a DM or whatever. Just shoot me a DM and I'll have my assistant send you a link to these notes as soon as we're done today. So what you do is you suck in their entire audience on a no threat opt-in. Getting the notes for your talk is a no-threat opt-in, and they don't have to be designed. I've got a worksheet. They don't have to be a worksheet. Okay, most of the time, in fact, I'm going to show you this because in my little pile of stuff here, I'll just show you this. Like this is an example. This is an example here. Okay, so like I did a master class called. Let me make this big screen. So I did a master class not too long ago called the Sarcastic Clone Ad Framework, and it's for an AI thing that I was doing, and I got all these notes here. And I just said, hey, listen, and I did it just like this. Hey, everybody, Chad Thibodeau, business coach, launch strategist. Today, we're going to be talking about the Sarcastic Clone Ad Framework. And I did it just like this, Sarcastic Clone, and I had all my pages of notes. There's only 3 of them. And hey, listen, I got about 14 pages of notes together. I'm only going to get to these 2. So if you want the other 12 pages, all you have to do is just simply put notes in the comment here. As soon as I'm done, my assistant will shoot you a link to have these notes, and you can have all 14 pages of my notes. Bam. So what do? So they get that, and they don't just get it. They click a link and they go to a quick little opt-in page. They're going to give me name, email, phone number. Now they got the notes in a PDF format, and then I've got some automation set up that says, hey, have you done that? Have you done your ad thing? Whatever. Hey, I've got another class coming up I think you would really appreciate and enjoy. Click the button below. It's only $27. You can watch it. And I've got a little automation that I set up that when we can go from notes to money just by simply giving my notes away. So don't underestimate podcasts. If you do nothing else but get on podcasts and do that particular strategy, you will make a ton of money. Workshops and corporate lunch and learns are fantastic. So here's what you're trying to collect when you're starting. You're collecting video footage, you're collecting testimonials, you're collecting case studies, and you're collecting audience results. That's what you're trying to do. Every single talk builds your future speaking fees, okay? You're not going to go from 0 to 10,000. You build this and you can start building more money. You want to turn speaking into a revenue engine. Now, there's 3 examples of this, okay? High-paid speakers aren't just paid to speak. They're paid because they generate revenue after they speak. Okay, so for instance, there's one way, which is the speaker fee model. This is where you get paid $1,000, $5,000, maybe even $10,000. It's driven by brand and demand. So if you have an awesome brand, you have awesome demand, you have a good sized audience, you're in demand, people want you to speak on their stage, they will hire you to speak on their stage. Only if they believe they will sell more tickets to their event by having you on stage. Only. Then there's the back end model. This is where you come, okay, and you may not even get paid to speak on stage, but you can sell coaching, consulting programs. This is where the most real money is made. But the third option is probably how you're going to get further faster. This is creating a hybrid model. Hey, Chad, how much do you charge to speak on stage? Well, my speaker fees are typically $10,000, but I actually have a model that if you just cover my expenses plus $1,000, then what I'll do is I'll come speak on your stage. I will offer a $3,000 to $5,000 program, and I'll split revenue with you 50-50. Okay, so now your event host has the ability to make money off of you. That's the best way to do it. So that's a lot of the times how I do it right now is I'm just like, okay, cover my expenses plus give me $1,000. You get a little skin in the game. Okay, so I'll lower that. You don't have to pay the $10K. I will make a pitch. I'll do a great job. You're going to get 50%. I'm going to get 50%. Okay, so chances are you can make pretty good money. So let's say you got a $3,000 offer and we only sell 10. That's 30 grand. You're going to make $15,000. So instead of paying me 10, you've made 10. Away we go. Right? That's how you do it. Okay, and so that's how you want to do it. And so things like I generated $250,000 from stage in 90 days. When you get to things like that, that statement allows you to charge significantly more. But it also opens the door for more hybrid models. And I'm telling you, you would rather have a hybrid model than a speaker fee model because you can make 10 times the revenue, okay? 10 times the revenue. Okay, so you have to the shift you have to make is turn speaking into a revenue engine. You need to go direct to buyers, okay? Stop waiting to be discovered. Okay, this is a shift you have to make. Most people sit back and wait. They stay invisible. Well, hopefully somebody sees my little thingy and clicks a button and books me. No. You be aggressive. I always say that there's no such thing as passive income. Passive income takes a very aggressive approach. Same thing with speaking, okay? You need to target corporate training departments, event planners, conference organizers, association, mastermind pages. You have your talk titles. You have your measurable outcome. You have that, and you are reaching out to people. I tell people, like, if you're trying to become a full-time speaker, then you need to spend 20 to 30 hours a week. Listen to what I just said. 20 to 30 hours a week doing nothing but reaching out and targeting corporate training departments, event planners, conference organizers, associations, and mastermind groups trying to get booked on stage, okay? So here's the simple little outreach template. You guys can just screenshot this if you want. Hey, such and such, I help this audience achieve these results. I noticed your upcoming event and believe I could help your attendees with this clear outcome. Would you be open to a quick conversation? That's it. Not, hey, can I send you my speaker reel? Hey, not, can I text you? No, it's, would you be open to a quick conversation? So that's low barrier, low entry. They're not going to feel obligated. You jump on there, you tell them what you do, have your little pitch down, and then they hire you. Okay, then they hire you. They may say, you know what? Hey, I'm not quite ready to put you on this go round, but how about next go round? Or they may say, hey, well, let's get to know each other a little bit. How about coming on my podcast, right? Whatever. These are things that you can do. So I'm a big fan of that outreach, okay? The next shift is you have to build authority in public. This is what I call the multiplier. You don't get booked because you're good. You get booked because you're visible and trusted. I was talking with a client the other day who, at a recent event that we hosted, we gave this particular person about 2 minutes to speak on stage. Okay, and it's something that we do. It's just a quick 2-minute thing, and we're very specific with what we want them to say. They have no time to prep for it. This particular person got up on stage, did this little 2-minute talk, and before the end of that event had 6 sales calls already booked on her calendar, and she didn't even do a pitch. Had 6 sales calls and put $20,000 in her pocket. Why? Because the power of the platform. So when you're on a stage and you're on a platform, that builds authority in public. Okay, so she can now take that little talk that we filmed. She can put that on social media. Now she's becoming visible. She can take any picture we took of her, put that on social media. That's building visibility and trust. Okay, and now you're doing really good. You need to post often. So you need to teach a framework, share client results, break down problems your audience faces, and post clips of you speaking consistently. And what happens is as you begin building this authority in public 2 to 3 times every single day, now you're creating consistent content. It creates inbound opportunities. So build authority in public. Raise your fees the right way. This is the next shift. So we're going to go from top to bottom here. The first thing is free to $500, you need to build assets. Don't ever turn a stage down. I have somebody who's coming to my event here in Boise on Thursday. And this particular person has an opportunity to speak at an event in Dallas, and she's not going to get paid for it. And she's like, well, I'm going to tell them no because I've already committed to coming and watching your event in Boise. And I was like, no, come to another city. If you have a chance to speak on stage, you go take it. Even if it's free, you go take it, okay? So phase number one, free to $500, all you're doing is building assets. Number two, 1,000 to 3,000, these are local and small events. You'll figure out the sweet spot right here, okay? Once you've done 10, 12, 15 of those, now you go from the corporate niche. What we learn is corporate people pay you a lot of money. So I have a talk that I do. It's a funny talk. You guys may not know this, but I do stand-up comedy. And I have an entire stand-up 45-minute keynote that I do specifically for corporations. It's about crazy bosses and, Sally who, blows up the microwave in the lunchroom. And, I've got all this stuff and it's really funny and it's all about team building and it's wrapped around strength finders or whatever. So when I want to do a corporate gig, and I only do one or two of these a year because I'm so busy, but I'll charge $5,000 to $10,000, okay, for that. And it's a 45-minute talk, $5,000 to $10,000, but it's fun. Lots of people have recommended me and referred me, so it's sort of easy to get those gigs. It's a lot of fun, but I'm not allowed to pitch. And so because I'm not allowed to pitch, I don't do a ton of them. And then the fourth one is the 10K. This is when you have proven outcomes and you have a brand. You have an awesome following. So when they book you for $10,000, they can 10x their ROI on you. They're pretty good, okay? So the moment you can tie your talk to revenue, retention, or performance improvement, your price will jump. That's what you're trying to do. You hiring me to be on your stage will increase your revenue, will increase your retention, or will improve your performance. Bam. Once you got that, you got that. We had a gal who has been watching us speak on these Speakpreneur stages, and she reached out to me, and she goes, hey, I think I'd be a really good asset for your Speakpreneur stage. I said, awesome. I said, tell me about the benefit we would gain by putting you on our stage. She goes, well, I'm a female. You're a male. That alone is enough. I said, okay. I said, we don't really care if you're female or male. We care if you have the goods to bring on stage. We don't hire people based upon, whether they're male or female. She goes, well, I'm also ethnic. And you need someone of color on your stage. I said, okay, well, what value are you going to bring to our audience? Like, tell me. And she didn't really have anything to say. And so I told her, I said, one thing I'd really encourage you to do is really get good at what you're good at. Okay? If the only thing you're bringing to stage is you're a female and you're a woman of color, then you're taking a different approach. That's not what event organizers want. What they want is, can you as a female and a woman of color bring value to my audience, bring value to my event in a way that will increase my revenue, increase my retention, increase performance? So we ended up hiring her. Just a couple weeks later, she calls me. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, thank you for that lecture, as she said. She goes, thank you for that lecture. She goes, I didn't appreciate it at the time, but I appreciate it now. She goes, because I reached out to another event organizer, and I didn't say anything about me being a female. I didn't say anything about me being a woman of color. But what I told them was my particular superpower is I can take an entire, because she does hypnotherapy. She goes, I can hypnotize the entire audience and have them ready to buy your product by the end of my talk. They'll laugh their heads off. They'll learn a lot, and they're going to give me a standing ovation when I'm done. And she goes, they hired me on the spot. And I was like, yes, that's what you have to do. Okay. The next shift that you have to make is random gigs to predictable system. Okay. So your message, your talk, your presence, your offer. When you get this down, it becomes predictable. Your message needs to be singular in focus. It solves a costly, specific problem. One of them. What one thing do you want to become known for? Your talk demonstrates a proven method. Your presence creates consistent demand, and your offer captures the value you create. When this system is in place, then your speaking gigs aren't going to feel random. They're going to become predictable. And that's what you need, is you need a predictable system. So those are the shifts that you have to make inside of the program if you're going to get if you're going to become a highly paid speaker. So I want to stop the conversation right now. For those of you who are watching me live this morning, I'm going to just defer all of our questions into our Speakpreneur group that we have going on right now. I'm going to invite you guys to unmute your microphone, and let's break this down. Let's do a little Q&A. Who wants to go first? Speak now or forever hold your pieces.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In building a sizzle reel, it's important, I know, to get a real videographer and not have your kid holding a cell phone. But how do you put it together to make it look like you're on big stages when you're not?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to disagree with you. Okay. Yes, you want some professional footage, but real footage is better. Okay, so real footage is better. If you got your phone, one, you're going to want to turn the settings on your phone to 4K. Okay, to 4K. Turn that thing this way if you're going to use it as a reel. Turn it sideways if you're going to use it on your sizzle reel. Okay, but if you turn it sideways, you can actually put more than one on a sizzle reel. You can have one coming up, one coming down, and it looks really sharp. But use your phone. It's the most effective thing you have. Clean your lens and make sure you have really, really, really good lighting, and then get as much of that footage as possible. Get on a stage like a Speakpreneur stage where we already have professional everything, and get some of that. That footage to go along with it, and you'll go places. But most smaller venues get intimidated and assume they can't afford you if all your stuff is a 10 out of 10. So I like to have 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 stuff in there, so the smaller stage feels as if they can relate with me, and they probably think I'm not $100,000, so they can probably afford me. So I would tell you, until you get to the level of the Tony Robbins of this world, you don't have to have that professional one. Have a good one. Okay, have a good one. But you can probably just come to a Speakpreneur event, get on our stage, and we can probably get you enough professional footage at the beginning. Okay, when you're on a real stage, you can do some other cool things too. One of the things I did when I was first starting was I was a pastor, so I had all this video of me on a professional stage. None of my content worked. So all I did was I just took that, put it into like CapCut, took the audio out of it, and I just used it as B-roll, right? And I voiced over I did a voiceover, so they had good music and me speaking about something else, and so they saw me demonstrate it on stage, and I didn't do that. So one of the things that you can do, so I don't know if you guys have an outdoor mall, but like we have an outdoor mall right here in Tempe, and it's got a huge LED wall on it where they do like concerts and stuff. And so I have taken 2 clients down to that, put them on that stage, put a microphone. I have the microphone right here. It's not even on. And I just said, you're going to dress up. You're going to look like $1 million. You're just going to start speaking, and I'm going to film you while you do it. We're not going to use any of the audio. And they were on this big, beautiful stage with a huge LED wall. We got nice and tight for them. They had no idea they were at a mall. Okay. And you can get creative like that. Okay. You can get really, really, really creative like that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, did you film the thing I did the other day?
We did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can I have that?
As soon as we get it, we'll give it to you.
Great.
It takes about 3-4 days for the video team to produce all those assets. But yeah,
Great.
Yeah. And I say we filmed it. I hope to goodness we filmed it. I'm pretty sure we did. We have a guy there full time. That's what he does. So I definitely know that we have. Pictures of it, and I do know that Jessica, one of our Inner Circle people, recorded you 100% on her phone too.
I saw Lindsay doing that too.
Oh, and Lindsay got you too, right? So I do know we have it, but I do think we have the professional footage for you.
Great.
I'll double check that.
Thank you, Chad, for bringing that back up. I could turn my camera on. I just have no makeup right now.
Oh, we definitely want to see you then. Then you have to turn your camera on.
This is all natural.
Elizabeth, I have no makeup on either.
Oh gosh, you look so fantastic.
Yeah.
With no makeup. So that is a good point, because does the sizzle reel, what you called it?
Yeah.
Of, I don't know, was it Alvin? It didn't have him speaking on stage. You didn't hear what he was saying on stage.
Right.